Hi, my name's Holly. I'm a computer science tutor and I run Teach All About It. Today we're going to be looking at a past paper question for changing pseudocode in paper 2 of the CIE iGCSE computer science syllabus. The real student answer we're looking at today comes from a practice question submitted on my online distance learning course. And huge thanks to the student who gave me permission to look through their answer with you. So by the end of this video, you're going to be able to understand exactly what the examiner is looking for in order for you to get full marks. Okay, let's get started. So in this question here, we have been given some very simple pseudocode. We have some inputs and we have a total at the bottom, and then we have an output. And the actual question we are being asked here is to describe. So again, we're not having to do any major pseudocode, although you can put some in if you need to explain a point, but only as an example. So we need to describe how we would alter this pseudocode to allow any number of values to be input. So right now it's calculating an average using 12 very distinct variables, but we want to make this more efficient. So before I now go on to the student answer, I'd like you to pause the video, grab a pen and paper and have a go yourself. So how did our student do? Well, they did absolutely fantastically on this one. It was a 3 out of 3, and in this case they have chosen to use a do until loop. Now you would absolutely get a mark for using a while loop as well. Alternatively, the other way of doing this is to ask the user how many items they want to add, and then use a for loop, because that could be account controlled based upon their original answer of how many items they want to add. The important thing is to get rid of all of these inputs here, because this is a lot of variables and we don't necessarily need to use this. So there are two types of variables that you need to understand for the paper 2 exam. One is called a totaler and one is called a counter. Now you actually see a counter as part of a for loop because it tells you how many times you've been around the loop. Now a counter quite literally counts how many times something has happened, but a totaler is a little bit more complicated, and what it does is it holds a running total. So I'm going to use the word running total. Now what that means is that we're going to go through a loop, and that totaler is then going to keep track of all of the inputs that have come in. So you can see here, using a do until loop, I would use a totaler to keep count of how many inputs the user has entered. That's absolutely fine. And then they've explained that a little bit more because they've said how many inputs, so that might be a counter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the context of our example and then give the marks for that. So you might on this one get a bit of a benefit of the doubt, because there is maybe a little confusion there between a counter and a totaler. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to write out some of our pseudocode. So what would this actually look like if we had to rewrite it? And that is a possibility. So in this case, I would use a do until loop. So let's use the do until loop. So we're going to write do, and then what we're going to do is we need to have this running total. So if you have a running total, it needs to happen before the loop. Now I'm going to call this total, although they've used t, which is a terrible idea. So in this case, total is going to start with the value of 0, because until I've had an input, I'm not going to have anything in total, but I do need it to have an initial value. This is called initializing. So total equals 0, do, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take in that input. So I'm going to do this all on one line. So here, total takes the value of, which is what that left pointing arrow means, itself, so its current value plus whatever the user inputs. So now it's going to just add that user input every time we go around the loop. Now we also want to be able to end the loop. So that's what they've said about this count how many times the user has entered. So we could simply at this point say, are you done? If we want to calculate the average, we probably want to have a count. So let's put a count up here. That's also going to start at 0. So at this point I've added an input. So here count takes the value of itself plus 1. Now plus 1, this is a counter. It's telling me how many times I've been around the loop. Let's call this end is an input. Now at this point I'm going to do a bit of a Python-esque version of an input. Done. Question mark, yes or no. Technically we would want to split this up into an output and an input, but if you've been consistent you're okay with this one. And then we're going to do this until end equals y. So keep going until end equals y. Now this means that I can then do the output at the bottom, and that output would then allow me to have average equals, so I'm just going to put average plus is that, and then instead of t divided by 12, which we have down here, what it's going to be is our total, which is the same as t, but we've just done this in a loop, divided by the counter, which we called count. And that's how you would turn absolutely everything that you can see on the left into a loop that allows you to add any number of values to be input and then still output an average at the end. So would you like your practice question featured on one of my videos? You can send in your revision questions for free for GCSE, iGCSE or A-Level Computer Science at teachallaboutit.school, where there are loads of independent study resources. Or you can join my distance learning tutor courses at teachallaboutit.uk. Please don't forget to give this video a like if you found the revision useful, and of course you can hit the subscribe button to get notified each time I upload new revision videos. Lots of luck with your revision, and I'll see you next time.